Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. I'm SquishyTheTitan, and welcome to part 3 of Let's Play TRIHAYWBFRFYH. Now, in the last video, we went through and did the red pillars of light, and I noticed that the obelisks take on a different personality and sort of a different shape each time. Now, it's sort of weird to say that these things have a personality, but that's kind of really what it looked like. At least it looked like they were a bit more protecting. I noticed that I was being taken away a little less, or a little more slowly last time, when the red light was appearing in between a bunch of things of obelisks. So yeah, it's a neat little effect, and I'll get more to it after I get to this pillar.
Had I, in full hideous fact, been drawn back to a pre-human world of 150 million years ago, in those dark, baffling days of the amnesia? Had my present body been the vehicle of a frightful alien consciousness from Paleogean gulfs of time? Had I, as the captive mind of those shambling horrors, indeed known that accursed city of stone in its primordial heyday, and wriggled down those familiar corridors in the lonesome shape of my captor? Were those tormenting dreams of more than 20 years ago the offspring of stark, monstrous memories?
Oh, fantastic. My face cam has gone away. I guess what happened is sometimes my webcam the USB port that my webcam is plugged into decides to fail on me, because I have a lot of things plugged in there at the moment, or into the, motherboard. And then it just kind of stops recording and corrupts the file, and I have to restart my PC and everything, so that's fine. But luckily, my other programs are still running, Audacity, and I wasn't able to use Shadowplay, so I had to use Dextery for this one. But anyway, next pillar!
My name is Nathaniel Wingate Peasley, and those who recall the newspaper tales of a generation back, or the letters and articles in psychological journals 6 or 7 years ago, will know who and what I am. The press was filled with the details of my strange amnesia in 1908 until 1913.
So yeah, you're not gonna see a face cam on this one, but yeah. Thankfully it happened early enough so I didn't do anything to the face cam, and you guys wouldn't be able to see any gestures I made or anything, so yeah. Next pillar!
It was on Thursday, May 14th, 1908 that the queer amnesia came. The thing was quite sudden, though later I realized that certain brief, glimmering visions of several hours previous, chaotic visions which disturbed me greatly because they are so unprecedented, must have formed premonitory symptoms. My head was aching, and I had a singular feeling, altogether new to me, that someone else was trying to get possession of my thoughts. The collapse occurred around 10:20 a.m. I slumped down unconscious in my chair, in a stupor from which no one could arouse me. Nor did my rightful faculties again look out upon the daylight of our normal world for 5 years, 4 months, and 13 days. It is, of course, from others that I have learned what followed.
So I was saying that these things had a personality. It sort of does. Like, I'm interested to see what these kinds of obelisks because I noticed that they change. In the first one, they were just, jutting, pillars of, just jutting pillars, actually. Jutting square pillars, and in the second one, they were like diamonds, sort of. And they were like, I don't know, shielding me, protecting me, I don't know. I don't know how you would put it, but yeah.
At 3 a.m., May 15th, my eyes opened and I began to speak. But before long, the doctors in my family were thoroughly frightened by the trend of my expression and language.
Oh.
It was clear that I had no remembrance of my identity and my past, though for some reason I seemed anxious to conceal this lack of knowledge. My eyes gazed strangely at the persons around me, and the flexions of my facial muscles were altogether unfamiliar. Even my speech seemed awkward and foreign. I used my vocal organs clumsily and gropingly, and my diction had a curiously stilted quality, as if I had laboriously learned the English language from books. The pronunciation was barbarously alien, whilst the idiom seemed to include both scraps of curious anachronism and expressions of a wholly incomprehensible cast.
One thing I always loved about H.P. Lovecraft is how I would always have to sort of read it with a thesaurus, because I was, like 16, 17 years old, learning, words like anachronism and stuff. I don't know what anachronism means. I'm sorry. But, having to learn all of what these words meant for when they're written for people who were not 17 years old.
The essence was always the same. A person of keen thoughtfulness seized with a strange secondary life, and leading for a greater or lesser period, an utterly alien existence typified at first by vocal and bodily awkwardness, and later by a wholesale acquisition of scientific, historical, artistic, and anthropological knowledge. An acquisition carried on with the feverish zest and with a wholly abnormal absorptive power. Then a sudden return of the rightful consciousness, intermittently plagued ever after with vague, unplaceable dreams, suggesting fragments of some hideous memory elaborately blotted out.
One of the things that I forgot to point out that I did notice during the last passage was these obelisks are black. Like, what the hell? Okay, it seems like there's a little bit of stuttering. I'm sorry for that. I am using Dextery instead of Shadowplay because ever since the new driver update, Shadowplay has been throwing a bit of a temper tantrum.
I come now to the crucial and most difficult part of my narrative.
Yeah.
All the more difficult because I cannot be quite certain of its reality. At times I feel uncomfortably sure that I was not dreaming or deluded.
I'm gonna turn the grass off real quick.
In view of the stupendous implications which the objective truth of my experience would raise, which impels me to make this record.
Alright, sorry about that if it stuttered a little bit, but I turned the grass off just to put a little less load on the graphics card, because Dextery puts quite a bit more load on the graphics card than Shadowplay does. And if you don't know what that means, it means that effectively it is rendering 2 frames at once instead of like Shadowplay where it's rendering them and just recording it. With Dextery, it's recording straight from the graphics card, which means it has to work twice as hard. It's basically rendering the game twice. So here's the next one.
Primal myth and modern delusion join in their assumption that mankind is the only one, perhaps the least, of the highly evolved and dominant races of this planet's long and largely unknown career. Things of inconceivable shape, they implied, had reared towers to the sky and delved into every secret of nature, before the first amphibian forebear of man had crawled out of the hot sea 300 million years ago. Some had come down from the stars, a few were as old as the cosmos itself, and others had arisen swiftly from terrene germs as far behind the first germs of our life cycle, as those germs are behind ourselves. Spans of thousands of millions of years and linkages to other galaxies and universes were freely spoken of. Indeed, there is no such thing as time in its humanly accepted sense.
Alright, you gotta love how much love and care was put into this game. I mean, I say it's kind of difficult on my graphics card, only when it has to run like twice basically. But it really is, it's a very, very large area for something that's only gonna take you 20 minutes at a time.
But most of the tales and impressions concern a relatively late race, of a queer and intricate shape, resembling no life form known to science, which had lived till only 50 million years before the advent of man. This, they indicated, was the greatest race of all, because it alone had conquered the secret of time. It had learned all things that ever were known, or ever would be known on the earth, through the power of its keener minds to project themselves into the past and future, even through gulfs of millions of years, and study the lore of every age. From the accomplishments of this race arose all legends of prophets, including those in human mythology.
I've gotta say, the walking simulator games that I've played, like Gone Home, Dear Esther, I didn't Let's Play Dear Esther, but I played it, but those have given me some of the best experiences in gaming. TRIHAYWBFRFYH is, no exception. This is an exceptional game, an exceptional experience, and it's just, one that invokes, it's a lot of imagery, a lot of, it's very artistic, I guess I would say. It's just so artistic.
With this eon embracing knowledge, the great race chose from every era and life form such thoughts, arts, and processes as might suit its own nature and situation. Knowledge of the past, secured through a kind of mind casting outside the recognized senses, was harder to glean than knowledge of the future. In the latter case, the course was easier and more material. With suitable mechanical aid, mine would project itself forward in time, feeling its dim, extrasensory way until it approached the desired period. Then, after preliminary trials, it would seize on the best discoverable representative of the highest of that period's life forms. It would enter the organism's brain and set up therein its own vibrations, while the displaced mind would strike back to the period of the displacer, remaining in the latter's body till a reverse process was set up. The projected mind, in the body of the organism of the future, would then pose as a member of the race whose outward form it wore, learning as quickly as possible all that could be learned from the chosen age and its massed information and techniques. Meanwhile, the displaced mind, thrown back to the displacer's age and body, would be drained of all its knowledge by trained questioners.
Alright, so I've said multiple times that this is an artistic game. So I'm sorry if this doesn't have like a lot of action. If you don't like it, I apologize, but this is just a game that I'm sort of, sort of experienced. It's more of a let's experience type. Is that like a lavender? It's not actually white, it's like a lavender-ish color. I would say light purple, but I know what the color is. Anyway, let's get it.
The Great Race's members were immense, rugose cones 10 feet high, and with head and other organs attached to foot-thick, distensible limbs spreading from the apexes. They spoke by the click and scraping of huge paws or claws attached to the end of the two of their forelimbs, and they walked by the expansion and contraction of a viscous layer attached to their vast, 10-foot bases. When the captive's mind's amazement and resentment had worn off,
I didn't know that I could zoom.
And when, assuming that it had come from a body vastly different from the Great Race's, it had lost its horror and unfamiliar temporary form, it was permitted to study its new environment and experience a wonder and wisdom approximating that of its displacer.
Alright, quick analysis. These just kind of look like the jutting white platforms from the yellow pillars of light. So I don't know if they have really a much different personality, but those just popped up, in a way that like they was sort of blocking my view of the next one, so maybe they're gonna be trying to hinder my progress?
Snatches of what I read and wrote would linger in my memory. There were horrible annals of other worlds and other universes, and of stirrings of formless life outside of all universes. There were records of strange orders of beings which had peopled the world in forgotten pasts, and frightful chronicles of grotesque-bodied intelligences which would people it millions of years after the death of the last human being.
I was gonna make a joke about how he said anals, but no. Ooh, what is that on top of the thingy? Oh no, that's probably in front of it. Okay, never mind.
I learned, even before my waking self had studied the parallel cases, or the old myths from which the dreams doubtless sprang, that the entities around me were of the world's greatest race, which had conquered time and sent exploring minds into every age. I knew too that I had been snatched from my age while another used my body in their own, and that few of the other strange forms have similarly captured minds. I seemed to talk in some odd language of claw clickings with exiled intellects from every corner of the solar system.
Okay, so it is popping up. The next white pillar is popping up on the other side of this obelisk. So I'm guessing, yeah, these are trying to hinder my progress. I don't know. But I need to get a move on. I need to like stopping and like talking for a bit. Just because I am kind of losing time on this. It is a set time of 20 minutes. And let's go.
After man, there would be the mighty beetle civilization, the bodies of whose members the cream of the great race would seize when the monstrous doom overtook the elder world. Later, as the Earth's span closed, the transferred mind would again migrate through time and space, to another stopping place in the bodies of the bulbous vegetable entities of Mercury. But there would be races after, clinging pathetically to the cold planet, and burrowing to its horror-filled core, before the other end.
Alright, so yeah, I do need to slow or stop with the stopping by the pillars of light and talking. I need to go straight to the pillars of light now, just because it is on a set time of 20 minutes. If you haven't seen any videos before, it is on a set time of 20 minutes. And I need to get as many of the pillars of light, if not all of them, as I can. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep doing that, and then I'm gonna. What the fuck?
Well nigh omniscient, and turn to the task of setting up exchanges with the minds of other planets, and of exploring their pasts and futures. It sought likewise to fathom the past years and origins of the black, eon-dead orb in far space, whence its own mental heritage had come. For the mind of the great race was older than its bodily form. The beings of a dying elder world, wise with the ultimate secrets, had looked ahead for a new world and species wherein they might have long life, and had sent their minds en masse into that future race best adapted to house them, the cone-shaped beings that peopled our Earth 1 billion years ago. And thus the great race came to be, while the myriad minds sent backward were left to die in the horrors of strange shapes. Later the race would again face death, yet would live through another forward migration of its best minds into the bodies of those who had a longer physical span ahead of them.
What the hell was that? Why did it just pop up around me? I had to navigate through a maze. This is definitely like either hindering my progress or trying to keep me from something. I don't know if it's a sort of like backwards protection thing where it's like trying to keep me from the truth because it doesn't think I can handle it. I don't know why I'm starting to think that this has like a, you know, complex personality, like complex character development in the obelisks, but I don't know, it gives me comfort to think so, and I think it makes the game a lot more interesting if it does.
Warfare, largely civil for the last few millennia, though sometimes waged against reptilian or octopodic invaders, or against the winged, star-headed old ones who centered in the Antarctic. It was usually infrequent, though infinitely devastating. An enormous army using camera-like weapons which produced tremendous electrical effects was kept on hand for purposes seldom mentioned, but obviously connected with the ceaseless fear of the dark, windowless elder ruins, and of the great sealed trapdoors in the lowest subterranean levels.
Don't open that trapdoor, you're a fool if you dare. Don't open the trapdoor, there's something. Or because if you open the trapdoor, there's something down there.
According to
I just thought of that.
Information, the basis of the fear was of a horrible elder race of half-polypus, utterly alien entities which had come through space from immeasurably distant universes.
It's gonna be coming for me soon.
Dominated the Earth and 3 other solar planets about 600 million years ago. They were only partly material as we understand matter. Their type of consciousness and media perception differed widely from those of terrestrial organisms. They had the power of aerial motion, despite the absence of wings or any other visible means of levitation. Their minds were of such a texture that no exchange with them could be affected by the great race. When these things had come to Earth, they built mighty basalt cities of windowless towers.
Oh, why does it have to be so far away?
The beings they found. Thus, it was when the minds of the great race sped across the void from that obscure, transgalactic world, known in disturbing and debatable Elton shards as Yith. The newcomers with the instruments they created had found it easy to subdue the predatory entities and driven them down to those caverns of inner Earth, which they had already joined to their abodes and begun to inhabit. But as the eons passed, there came vague, evil signs that the elder things were growing strong and numerous in the inner world. There were sporadic eruptions of a particularly hideous character in certain small and remote cities of the great race, and in some of the deserted other cities which the great race had not peopled. Places where the path to the gulfs below had not been properly sealed or guarded.
Alright, I just want to point out the reason I went ugh or something is because he said the word yith, and anybody who is, you know, versed on the internet, yiffing is when two furries kind of giggity. Oh no!
The eruptions of the other things must have been shocking beyond all description.
Where?
Psychology of the great race.
Where?
Such was the fixed mood of the horror, the very aspect of the creatures were left unmentioned. At no time was I able to gain a clear hint of what they looked like. There were veiled suggestions of monstrous plasticity and of temporary lapses of visibility, while other fragmentary whispering refers to the ritual military use of great winds.
Sorry for the frame rate, guys.
Similar whistling noises and colossal footprints made up of 5 circular toe marks seemed also to be associated with them.
Sorry about if the frame rate's dropping a bit. The My graphics card is having a little bit of trouble trying to render all of these particle effects going on at once. One more, or two more. I can get two more, maybe.
Coming doom so desperately feared by the great race, the doom that was one day to send millions of keen minds across the chasm of time to strange bodies in the safer future, had to do with the final successful eruption of the elder beings. Mental projections down the ages had clearly foretold such a horror, and the great race had resolved that none who could escape it should face it. That the foray would be a matter of vengeance, rather than an attempt to reoccupy the outer world. They knew from the planet's later history, for their projections showed the coming and going of subsequent races, untroubled by the monstrous entities. Indeed, it was known that they would be quite dead in the time of the post-human beetle race, which the fleeing minds would tend.
Okay, there's less off in this direction, so the frame rate should be back to normal. But there's less off in this direction than this. I'm at the actual, like, end of the map over here. No, fuck you!
Had I once veritably talked with minds from reachless corners of time and space, learned the universe's secrets, past and to come, and read the annals of my own world for the metal cases of those
frame rate!
archives?
What you doing?
And were those others?
Stab!
Those shocking elder things of the mad winds and demon pipings, in truth a lingering, lurking menace, waiting and slowly weakening in the black abysses, while varied shapes of life drag out their multi-millennial courses on the planet's age-racked surface? I do not know. If that abyss and what I held were real, there is no hope.
Oh. I hope he was done with what he was saying. But anyway, I gotta restart my computer, guys. And maybe plug my webcam into a different USB port. But I think that one was Color Out of Space? I don't think it was Call of Cthulhu. I don't know. I have to reread my H.P. Lovecraft. I think I'm gonna ask my friend Paul if I can borrow some books or something. But anyway, that's all I've got for this video. I'm actually probably gonna be recording part 4 right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, rate, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends about me. I am SquishyTheTitan, and I will see you in part 4 of TRIHAYWBFRFYH, or The Rapture is here and you will be forcibly removed from your home. So I will record that like right now. So, bye guys! I don't even know why I waved. I just waved, but I know that my webcam software just crashed. But I just waved at you guys, so wave back. Bye!